It was a seemingly peaceful night in the convent of Santa Clara. The nuns and novices, under the supervision of Mother Superior Christina, had just finished their last meal of the day, following the usual ritual of prayer and silence. The soft light of the refectory illuminated their serene faces, while Christina, with her firm presence, reminded everyone of the importance of the following day. Rest well, sisters. Tomorrow we will go to the pediatric hospital for a special task. We need to be prepared both in body and spirit. I want everyone in the refectory at 6 o'clock sharp. The sisters nodded silently, leaving one by one. Only Christina and her faithful assistant, Sister Clara, remained. Together, they finished closing the windows, while they noticed the weather turning stormy. The sky was overcast, announcing a heavy rain. I trust you to guide the sisters tomorrow, Christina said to Clara, with a soft smile. Shortly after, the first drops of rain began to fall, accompanied by the growing sound of the storm. In her room, Christina tried to rest, comforted by the steady rhythm of the rain. However, amidst the soothing sound, she heard distant knocking. She thought it was just the wind, but the knocking became louder and more insistent. Reluctantly, she got up and, upon opening the bedroom door, found Clara, visibly worried. "Mother, someone is knocking on the convent door. I didn't want to open it myself, so I came to call you." The two walked through the corridors, the echoes of their footsteps muffled by the storm. When they reached the entrance, the knocking became louder. Christina opened the large wooden door and, before them, under the torrential rain, stood an unexpected figure, a nun in a completely white habit. Even soaking wet, the new sister seemed to radiate a light of her own. Not understanding who she was or where she came from, Christina asked in a firm voice, "Who are you?" The nun calmly replied, "My name is Angelina." Without hesitation, the two brought her inside, concerned about her condition. They needed to warm her up and offer her dry clothes, but when they removed the wet habit, something surprising happened. The fabric, previously soaked, was miraculously dry and impeccable, exuding a soft scent of flowers. Amazed by what they had witnessed, Clara and Christina realized that Angelina was no ordinary visitor. Something extraordinary was about to happen. In a soft and hesitant movement, Clara touched the fabric carefully, as if she wanted to confirm that it was not an illusion. The habit, previously soaked by the rain, was now dry and impeccable, exuding a heavenly aroma. Even the underwear, which was also wet, looked like it had just come from a dry cleaner. "How is that possible?" Clara asked, still in disbelief. Angelina, however, answered calmly, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. "Maybe I didn't get as wet as it seemed, and the steam from the shower helped dry everything quickly," she said with a slight smile. However, this explanation made no sense given what they were both witnessing. Christina, not knowing how to react, remained silent for a few moments, still holding the habit in her hands, while she tried to process what she had just witnessed. There was something unusual about Angelina, but at the same time, her presence transmitted such a deep peace that Christina decided not to ask any more questions. After Angelina had dressed again, her habit, now dry and impeccable, seemed even more radiant, as if it reflected the purity of her soul. The mother and Clara exchanged glances, recognizing that something special surrounded this young woman. The three of them then went to the refectory, where Christina served Angelina a plate with the leftovers from dinner. As she ate, Christina, unable to contain her curiosity, gently asked, "Who are you, my daughter? Where did you come from and to which convent do you belong?" Angelina paused for a moment, putting her fork aside before answering calmly, "I don't know. I only remember my name, Angelina. But I don't remember anything else. I only know that I have come this far." The simple and enigmatic answer left both Christina and Clara intrigued, but at the same time, they felt that Angelina was speaking the truth. There was a deep mystery in this woman, but her presence radiated an incomparable peace. Christina then held Angelina's hands and said to her affectionately, "You are safe here, daughter. We will help you find the answers you seek, and until then, this will be your home." Angelina thanked her, and when she was informed that the next day the sisters would be going to the pediatric hospital to help the children, her eyes lit up. "I love children," she replied sweetly. Christina, pleased, decided to include her in the mission the following day. Later, while Angelina was getting comfortable, Christina and Clara talked briefly about the mysterious arrival of the young woman. Something about Angelina brought a light never before seen in the convent, and this aroused a mixture of fascination and curiosity in both of them. Despite the unanswered questions, Christina's fatigue soon made her fall asleep. A few hours later, before dawn, a soft knock woke Christina. When she opened the door, she found Clara with an urgent and curious expression. "I'm sorry to wake you so early, Mother, but you need to see this." Intrigued, Christina followed Clara to the refectory and, upon arriving, came across an unexpected scene. An impressive banquet was laid out on the table. Fresh fruit, freshly baked bread, cakes and colorful jams filled the room with a sweet and welcoming aroma. Incredulous, Christina looked at Clara and asked, "Who prepared all this?" "There wasn't enough time or ingredients." Clara, smiling, pointed to the back of the refectory, where Angelina, serene, was finishing setting the table. "It was her, Mother. Angelina did all this." Surprised, Christina approached and, with a mixture of fascination and perplexity, asked, "How did you manage to prepare all this, Angelina? We don't have even half of this fruit in the convent." Angelina, with the same calm smile, humbly replied, "I woke up early and wanted to return the welcome yesterday. I picked some fruit and prepared something special for everyone." As simple as her explanation sounded, nothing about the situation seemed to make sense. But, faced with Angelina's serenity, Christina chose once again not to question. The peace that Angelina brought seemed to dissolve any doubt, and the mystery surrounding her only increased the feeling that something truly extraordinary was happening. The alarm in the convent announced it was time to wake up, and one by one, the nuns began to arrive at the dining room. When they saw the table full of delicacies, they were equally surprised. Their expressions of astonishment soon gave way to smiles of satisfaction. The mother, in a welcoming tone, introduced the new member, "This is Angelina, who will be spending some time with us. And, as you can see, she has already graced us with this wonderful breakfast." The sisters applauded, while Angelina just smiled shyly. Despite her joy, Christina reminded them that time was short and asked everyone to hurry, as the bus to the pediatric hospital would arrive soon. A few minutes later, they were on their way. The trip was going smoothly until a flat tire, almost causing an accident. Fortunately, the problem was quickly resolved, and they soon continued on their way. Upon arriving at the hospital, the children greeted the nuns enthusiastically, running to greet them with smiles and laughter. The sisters' visit to the hospital was always a source of joy for the sick children, and this time was no different. They handed out small packages of chocolates, and the sparkle in the little one's eyes was contagious. While helping with the distribution, Mother Christina observed Angelina. The young nun seemed in perfect harmony with the children, her presence emanated a peace that touched everyone. Christina, intrigued, wondered who Angelina really was. At a certain point, the nuns dispersed throughout the hospital. Christina, sitting on the porch, was surprised by a little boy of about 4 years old, who ran up to her with a blue balloon in his hands. Panting but smiling, he said, "Mother, you won't believe it. A nun with wings gave me that balloon." Christina, confused by the description, bent down to speak to the child. "Are you sure, my angel?" The boy nodded vigorously, saying that the nun looked like an angel. Trying to understand what the boy meant, Christina praised him for the gift and told him to play. Soon after, Angelina walked down the hallway, holding more balloons, which made the nun's heart race. The day went on peacefully, with the nuns visiting each room and bringing comfort to the children. Christina watched everyone's work closely, but her eyes always returned to Angelina, who aroused a growing curiosity in her. At one point, Christina entered the room of Miguel, a 9-year-old boy who was already known to the nuns. Unlike the other children, he was silent, looking out the window with a distant expression. Next to his bed, a wheelchair seemed to be the symbol of his daily struggle. Christina asked the nurse about Miguel's condition, who sadly explained that the boy was getting worse, and the doctors believed that he would never walk again. With a heavy heart, Christina asked for a moment alone with the boy. As the nurse left, the mother noticed Angelina at the end of the hall, watching her with a calm and deep gaze. Angelina entered the room without hesitation and went straight to Miguel, as if she knew exactly what to do. "Hello, Miguel, how are you?" she asked with a sweetness that cut through the silence. Miguel, surprised that she knew his name, looked at her, still without hope. "I brought you a candy in this balloon," Angelina said, holding out the gift with a soft smile. Miguel looked at the others but shook his head, politely refusing. "It's no use. I can't play like the others. I can't walk or run. And the doctors said I'll never be able to walk again," he said, his voice full of sadness. Angelina, with a serene calm that seemed to light up the room, knelt beside his bed and placed her hand over his in a gesture full of affection. "You know, Miguel, sometimes the most impossible things happen when we least expect it. Have you ever tried to believe?" Miguel sighed deeply, discouraged. "The doctors said there's no cure," he murmured, looking at his motionless legs. Angelina kept smiling, her eyes shining with gentle confidence. "Doctors know a lot, but they don't know everything. Believe me, Miguel," she said, without looking away. To everyone's surprise, Angelina held out her hand to him. "Come, Miguel, get up," she encouraged gently. Mother Christina, who had been watching the scene intently, felt the atmosphere change, as if a sacred presence had filled the room. Miguel looked at Angelina's outstretched hand hesitantly, his eyes filled with doubt. "I can't," he said almost reflexively, but there was something in her voice, something that rekindled a small flame of hope within him. "You can, believe me," Angelina insisted, her voice firm but full of tenderness. Reluctantly, Miguel slowly reached out for her hand. Mother Christina held her breath as she watched the boy move his legs for the first time in months. Miguel swung his legs over the side of the bed, his body shaking with uncertainty. Christina's eyes filled with silent tears, disbelief mixed with an almost desperate hope. With an immense effort, Miguel's feet touched the ground. Breathing quickly, he looked at Angelina, who was supporting him firmly. With an almost involuntary movement, Miguel began to stand up. His legs, previously immobile, now supported his weight. He took one step, then another. "I'm walking," Miguel whispered, his eyes wide with emotion. Christina could not hold back her tears, she had just witnessed a true miracle. She fell to her knees, tears flowing as she raised her hands in gratitude. The reason she had always dedicated herself to social work was to see moments like this, to bring a little joy to children like Miguel, whose future seemed so bleak. Now, before her eyes, the boy was walking. With each step Miguel took, his legs gained strength and shape, as if he were watching a miracle unfold. And the source of this miracle was clear to Christina, Angelina. She looked at the nun with wonder and reverence. For a brief moment, Christina saw something behind Angelina, something that resembled wings. She blinked, and when she opened her eyes, the wings had disappeared. Even so, Christina knew what she had seen. With a serene expression, Angelina approached Christina, still kneeling, and gently helped her to her feet. Miguel, next to the nun, was standing, smiling with a happiness that Christina had never seen before. Moved, Christina touched Angelina's face, as if she needed to feel something real to understand what she had just witnessed. "Who are you, Angelina? Who are you?" she asked, her voice full of emotion and wonder. Angelina, still smiling serenely, replied softly, "Take Miguel to play with the other children. He still has a lot to enjoy." Stunned, but feeling a deep sense of peace, Christina nodded, took Miguel's hand, and led him down the hallway. As they walked, the entire hospital seemed to stop and watch. Doctors, nurses, and nuns watched, open-mouthed, as the boy who had been confined to bed just a few minutes before was now walking on his own 2 feet. One of the nuns approached and asked what had happened. Christina, with tears in her eyes, answered almost reverently, "It was Angelina." To her surprise, Sister Clara looked at her with a confused expression. "Angelina? Who is Angelina?" Christina's heart raced. "The nun we welcomed last night, the nun in white," she replied. Clara, clearly confused, shook her head. "Mother, I don't remember any new nuns arriving yesterday." Confused and astonished, Christina left Miguel in the care of the doctors and ran through the hospital, returning to the room where everything had happened. Before entering, a sudden flash illuminated the door, disappearing as she and Clara approached. "What was that?" Clara asked, frightened. Christina's heart was beating fast, she already knew the answer. When they opened the door, they found the room empty. There was no sign of Angelina, just a few small white feathers on Miguel's bed. Christina picked up one of the feathers carefully. They were soft, pure white and glowed faintly, as if they emanated a light of their own. "Angelina," Christina murmured, her hands clasped tightly. The trembling ones. And then, the truth hit her. She was an angel, Christina thought. Clara, still confused, did not understand, but Christina knew that they had been visited by a celestial being. And for some reason, only she remembered. The mother insisted that they check the security cameras, but Angelina never appeared. The images showed only the mother herself, alone, helping Miguel to stand up and walk, as if she were responsible for the miracle. Clara, in disbelief, suggested that Christina might have fallen asleep and dreamed about it all. However, the mother knew that this was not the case, and the feathers in her hands were proof. Christina decided not to discuss the matter further and allowed everyone to believe what the cameras showed, while she left the hospital in silence, grateful for what had happened, even if she could not explain it. As she was about to get on the bus back to the convent, a boy ran towards Clara. She bent down to speak to the boy, and Christina followed him. It was the same boy who had mentioned the nun with wings. He handed a folded piece of paper into Clara's hands, which she opened with a smile. "What a beautiful drawing," she said, without giving it much importance, and quickly put it away. Inside the bus, Clara handed the drawing to the mother, who was still lost in thought. As she unfolded the paper, tears welled up again, but this time with a shy smile. The simple, childlike drawing showed a nun in white, with wings that almost touched the sky. Christina held the paper to her chest, feeling as if she had received a silent confirmation of everything she had witnessed. As she looked out the window at the cloudy sky, a deep peace took hold of her heart. It had not been a dream, nor an illusion. Angelina, or rather, the angel, had really been among them. With the drawing in her hands, Christina felt grateful for having witnessed something divine. "Thank you, my God, for this miracle," she whispered to herself. As the bus pulled away from the hospital, a last ray of sunlight broke through the clouds. Mother Christina, still deep in thought, looked back up at the sky and, in the distance, saw a radiant figure with majestic wings gently ascending. Her gaze fixed on the celestial being, who rose higher and higher until he disappeared over the convent in the distance. The nun did not look away until the angel disappeared into the clouds, and the sun illuminated the convent with a special light, as if heaven itself had blessed the place. Christina's heart was filled with peace. Livia, a little girl of 9 years old, often suffered from teasing because of her difficulty in speaking and because she did not know how to pray properly. She stuttered, and every time she tried to pray out loud, her words would get tangled up, causing laughter and whispers from the other children. At the São José orphanage, where the nuns' love tried to replace the lack of a family, Livia was an easy target. The nuns, always patient, encouraged her, "Pray slowly, my dear, God hears all prayers," but this did little to ease the girl's heart. At night, while the other children played and talked, Livia would retreat into silence, hugging her teddy bear, a gift from one of the nuns. The other children's mean words echoed in her mind, and tears wet her pillow. Even my little brother speaks better than you, they would mock. That night, under the moonlight, Livia curled up in bed, trying to escape the voices that tormented her. With a heavy heart and a feeling of loneliness that enveloped her, she fell asleep, plunging into disturbing dreams, full of shadows and confusing visions that gave her no rest. Each night, Livia felt a growing fear take over her chest, making her heart race. She would wake up startled, sweating cold and disoriented, always tormented by the same nightmares. But that night, something out of the ordinary was about to happen at the orphanage, something that not even the most experienced nuns could have predicted. After another day of teasing and laughter, Livia tossed and turned restlessly in bed, fighting the frightening images that appeared in her dreams. Suddenly, she woke up to a scream that echoed through the silent dormitory. Frightened, her roommates began to complain. "Here comes Livia again with her silly nightmares." "Let us sleep, girl," they said impatiently. Alerted by the screams, the nuns ran to the dormitory. Sister Clara approached Livia's bed, who was trembling, stroking her hair in an attempt to calm her down. "Calm down, my flower, it was just a nightmare. You are safe here," she said in her soft voice. However, Livia, still panting and with her eyes wide with fear, tried to explain what she had seen, but her words tumbled out. I had a dream. Something bad is going to happen," she stammered, trying to make herself understood. The nuns exchanged worried glances, but laughed lightly. "Don't worry, my dear, dreams are just dreams. They can't hurt you," one of them said. Despite the comforting words, Livia felt an uncomfortable certainty that something terrible was coming, and she couldn't express her fears. Her roommates, impatient, started mocking again. "What an insufferable girl. She wakes everyone up because of silly nightmares," they laughed. Tired of the teasing, Sister Clara intervened. "Enough. Leave the girl alone. Everyone get up now. Let's go to the temple to ask for forgiveness." The girls grumbled, complaining about the cold morning, as they walked sleepily to the chapel. During the Mass, Sister Beatrice, with her sweet voice, made an unexpected suggestion. "Livia, my dear, why don't you lead the prayer today? Ask God for a good night, without nightmares." Surprised, Livia felt the weight of the eyes on her. With trembling hands, she began to pray, her voice initially weak and stuttering. "Dear God," she murmured. In the background, the children made faces and laughed softly. However, suddenly, something changed. Livia's voice became stronger and clearer, and her stutter disappeared. With her eyes closed and her hands clasped together, she continued, "Dear God, protect us from all evil. May your holy mantle wrap us around and keep us. I ask especially, Lord, that our orphanage not catch fire and that the flames not hurt anyone." Silence filled the chapel. The laughter stopped, and the mocking looks gave way to surprise and admiration. The nuns, perplexed, looked at each other, intrigued by the specificity of the prayer. "Why did you mention fire, my dear?" Sister Clara asked, but Livia remained silent. Before they could process what had happened, a violent crash shook the building, followed by the sound of an explosion. Flames began to spread rapidly through the orphanage. "My God," they cried in panic. The fire consumed everything around them, and chaos ensued. Children ran, screaming, while the nuns tried to remain calm and guide everyone to the exit. Sister Clara, with a trembling but firm voice, ordered them to run outside. "Quickly, children, head for the exit." Meanwhile, other nuns knocked on the dormitory doors, trying to save the children who were still sleeping, oblivious to the smoke that was beginning to fill the hallways. "Wake up, we need to get out of here now." The nuns shouted, running to pick up the younger ones and guiding the older ones by the hand. Amidst the chaos, Livia, the little girl who had said the prayer, seemed curiously calm. Her eyes followed the flames that devoured the orphanage, the place she called home, but her expression remained serene, without panic, as if she already knew what was coming. "Come on, Livia," one of the nuns pulled her by the arm, desperate. The situation was critical, but with extraordinary strength, they managed to get all 30 children out of the building, one by one. Outside, on the lawn, the nuns quickly counted the children to make sure they were all safe. The orphanage was now completely consumed by fire, the windows exploded from the heat, sending sparks and shards of glass flying around. The children, frightened and crying, watched in shock, but Livia, in their midst, remained mysteriously calm. The others looked at her in disbelief, whispering among themselves, "How did she know?" Meanwhile, the nuns, despite their relief at having managed to save everyone, felt a deep pain at seeing the orphanage turn into ashes. "God was with us," Sister Clara murmured, casting a look of gratitude and surprise at Livia. She seemed to have been the instrument that saved them. Minutes later, the firefighters arrived, called by neighbors who had witnessed the fire, and quickly controlled the flames, preventing the fire from spreading any further. When the situation finally calmed down, the nuns and children, still in a state of shock, gathered around Livia, whose prayers seemed to have anticipated the disaster. "Livia, how did you know?" Sister Clara asked, with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Stuttering, as she always did when she was nervous, Livia began to talk about the nightmares she had every night. I dreamed about this. The orphanage was on fire and we ran, but no one believed me." The revelation brought a feeling of regret to the other children, who until then had laughed at her for her difficulties in praying. One by one, they approached her, with expressions of regret. "I'm sorry, Livia. We shouldn't have laughed at you," said one of the girls. "You saved us," added another. The children, moved, wrapped Livia in affectionate hugs, murmuring thanks and apologies. For the first time, Livia felt part of that group, accepted and respected. The nuns, watching the scene, were moved by the transformation that was happening before their eyes. "God works in mysterious ways," commented Sister Beatrice. "Today, he spoke through the dreams of a child." The atmosphere of fear and panic was replaced by one of unity and support. The children promised never to make fun of Livia again. Instead, they now saw her as a hero. After the devastating fire, the local community mobilized in surprising ways. Residents, businesses, and volunteer groups joined forces to help the orphanage. Donations of clothes, toys, and supplies arrived daily, while teams of workers took turns rebuilding the building that had been destroyed by the fire. Businesses donated materials, and many men, even inexperienced ones, volunteered to help with the work. The change in perception of Livia was clear. The girl, who had previously been the butt of jokes, was now recognized as a little hero. "You saved us," the nun said, handing her a teddy bear, given to her by one of the volunteers. The other children, who had previously been mocking her, now expressed affection and admiration. "We love you, Livia. You are our sister forever." Amidst the temporary environment that sheltered the children, a loving family appeared, with a deep desire to adopt Livia. Following her story in the media, the couple was moved by the girl's courage and sensitivity. "We want her to be part of our family," they declared emotionally, while Livia watched them with a look of hope. "Would you like to live with us?" asked the future adoptive mother, extending her hand affectionately. Livia, overcome with emotion and almost unable to believe the turnaround in her life, accepted the offer with a shy smile. "Yes, I would love to," she replied, still surprised by what was happening. On the day of the adoption, the entire orphanage celebrated. The nuns organized a small farewell party, and the other children said goodbye to Livia with warm hugs and best wishes. "We will miss you, but we are very happy for you," they said, while Livia, moved, promised that she would always come back to visit them. Livia's new family was overjoyed to welcome her. "You will have your own room, and we will take care of you with all our love," her mother promised, as the girl said goodbye to the nuns, who blessed her and wished her luck on her new journey. "May God be with you, Livia. You will always have a special place in our hearts," said one of the sisters, with tears in her eyes, but also with hope in her heart. As the orphanage was rebuilt, symbolizing new beginnings, Livia walked towards a future full of promise. The girl, who had once been the butt of jokes, now left surrounded by love and gratitude, carrying with her the certainty that she finally had a real family. In another story, Donna Emilia, an 80-year-old woman, struggled to support her granddaughter, Louis, after losing her daughter and son-in-law in a tragic accident. Living on a tight pension, she was forced to look for work, braving the heat and fatigue while handing out resumes in the city stores. Exhausted and hungry, she stopped in front of a store and, upon hearing two women talking about the need to hire a maid, her heart raced with hope for an opportunity. Even after receiving a rude response from Shirley, one of the women, she did not give up and insisted humbly, highlighting her long experience in domestic service. Despite her initial distrust, Shirley ended up accepting the offer, and Donna Emilia was hired to work in the mansion of the Fit Nuri family, known for its wealth but also for its strictness. In the first few days, the lady dedicated herself body and soul to her tasks, even with the pain and limitations imposed by age. Her main goal was to ensure the sustenance of Louis, who anxiously awaited her every day after school. Despite Shirley's harsh criticism, Donna Emilia endured everything in silence, keeping her focus on what really mattered, her granddaughter's well-being. Donna Emilia, already exhausted from a long day of work, received yet another criticism from Shirley, who always found something to complain about. This time, it was about the cleanliness of the bathroom stall. "You don't know how to scrub the corners properly, all the maids are useless," Shirley scolded, without any consideration for the old woman's age or weakness. Each word was like a stab in the lady's dignity, but she remained firm, motivated by the need to support her granddaughter Louisa. Often, they barely had enough to eat at home. Despite the physical exhaustion, Donna Emilia hid her pain so as not to worry her granddaughter and prevent Shirley from firing her. She always maintained an optimistic appearance, even though, inside, she was in pieces. On a particularly difficult day, she had to take Louisa to work, as she had no other option. Shirley, who was receiving guests that evening, was not at all pleased. "Just sit down and don't be a bother," the little girl promised her grandmother, holding her doll in her lap. However, the day held an unexpected tragedy. Donna Emilia, with her hands already weakened by age and hard work, dropped a crystal glass from the Fit Nuri family's valuable collection. The sound of the glass breaking echoed through the kitchen, and terror took over the lady's face. Trembling, she bent down to pick up the shards, cutting her hands in the process. Shirley arrived furious, shouting, "You broke one of my glasses. Do you know how much that costs, you useless old woman?" With her heart racing and tears in her eyes, Donna Emilia tried to explain herself. "I didn't mean to, ma'am, I'm sorry." But Shirley, overcome with rage, didn't want to hear excuses. "That glass is worth more than you've ever earned in your entire life," she shouted, while Shirley's husband also joined in the insults, ridiculing the lady in front of everyone. The employees watched in silence, their hearts heavy, knowing how cruel that family was. Donna Emilia, on her knees, begged for forgiveness, while tears ran down her wrinkled face. Her granddaughter, Louisa, tightly holding her doll, watched the scene with a broken heart. Unable to contain her compassion, the girl ran to her grandmother, saying firmly, "We will work to pay for the cup, you don't have to be so cruel." However, the girl's words did not touch Shirley or her husband. "That useless old woman can't even hold a cup. You two are dead weight here. Get out of my house." The injustice of that situation was unbearable for Louisa, who cried along with her grandmother, feeling the cruelty of the moment. Some guests looked on in astonishment, shocked by the inhumane treatment meted out to that woman. Among those present was David Cusco, a philanthropist businessman, who watched the scene with indignation. Upon seeing such cruelty over a broken cup, he could not contain himself. "Is this how you treat people, Shirley and Logan? Humiliating a lady over a simple accident? This is absolutely unacceptable." His words echoed in the kitchen, challenging the conscience of everyone present. Feeling morally compelled to intervene, the businessmen reprimanded the fighters for their deplorable behavior, highlighting the total lack of humanity in their attitudes. You live surrounded by luxury, but you seem to have forgotten the essentials, empathy and compassion, he said, with a firmness that echoed throughout the kitchen. David, a longtime friend of the couple, was clearly embarrassed by the situation, something the hosts never expected. The businessman recalled the sacrifices of his own mother, who, even at 95 years old, worked tirelessly to provide him with a dignified life. This made him condemn the couple's attitude even more vehemently, comparing Dona Emilia's fight for her granddaughter with his mother's dedication. This lady reminds me of my mother, and I will not allow her to be treated with such insensitivity in my presence, he said. Trying to justify herself, Shirley tried to argue about the value of the broken glass, but was interrupted by David, who, indignant, exclaimed, "A glass? Are you serious? Pay attention, there's something much bigger missing here," his voice echoing through the kitchen. The atmosphere became tense and silent after his words, with the couple visibly disconcerted. Dona Emilia, still kneeling, watched in disbelief as the businessman, now calmer, approached with a kind expression. He helped her to stand up, saying, "No one deserves to be treated like this, especially someone who works as hard as you." Grateful and with tears in her eyes, Dona Emilia allowed him to wash her bloody hands from the shards of the glass. "Does it hurt?" David asked, with genuine concern. "No, it's okay, dear," she replied, still surprised by the unexpected kindness. While washing the lady's hands, David continued to cast serious glances at the hosts, making his displeasure clear. Shirley and Logan alternated between embarrassment and indignation, trying to maintain a superior posture. "Very nice, David, but she still has to pay for what she did," Shirley grumbled. Without hesitation, the businessman retorted, "You have to be joking. You know very well that what she earns doesn't cover this. You're the ones who should be ashamed." Dona Emilia, now with clean hands, was visibly moved. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, while David ignored the fighter's hostile words. "Don't worry, I'll pay for the broken glass," the businessman declared, casting another serious glance at the hosts. He then turned to the old lady and made an unexpected proposal, "I'd like to offer you an opportunity. Will you work at one of my companies? You'll have a decent salary and you'll never be humiliated again, even if something goes wrong." Dona Emilia, still in shock, looked at him with gratitude, while little Luisa, holding her doll, watched anxiously. David not only made up for the embarrassment he had suffered, but also offered his wife a new chance to start over. News of Dona Emilia's humiliation quickly spread through high society. Friends and acquaintances of the couple soon learned of the rudeness and the negative impact it had had on society. The embarrassment tarnished the fighter's reputation, and many of the mansion's employees, upset by the cruelty they had witnessed, resigned, refusing to continue in such a toxic environment. While the fighter family dealt with the consequences of their actions, Dona Emilia and her granddaughter Luisa found a new beginning, full of hope and dignity. Hope and dignity were the words that marked the new phase of the old lady and her granddaughter's lives, after the intervention of the philanthropist David. Moved by their story, he became more than just a benefactor, he became a loyal friend. The lady reminded him of his own mother, a strong woman who always offered him unconditional support, but who left before he could repay all the dedication she received. Moved by this memory, David decided to provide them with everything they needed to rebuild their lives, as he would have done for his mother. Dona Emilia and Luisa were welcomed into an environment where empathy and solidarity surpassed material value. The businessman guaranteed a welcoming home, where both could heal from the wounds of the past and dream of a brighter future. In addition, he ensured that Luisa received a quality education, offering her opportunities that previously seemed unattainable. The old lady found a new purpose when she became David's personal secretary, a role that not only kept her busy but also brought her closer to the philanthropist, transforming the relationship between the three into a true chosen family. He not only met their material needs, but also became an emotional support, guiding them through life's challenges. It was as if David were a son to Dona Emilia and a loving uncle to little Luisa. Meanwhile, the fighters remained isolated in their mansion, bitterly reflecting on the consequences of their actions. The arrogance and insensitivity that had once prevailed were now replaced by the uncomfortable silence of a broken home. The legacy of shame they had created was irreparable. So, the old lady embraced her new beginning, surrounded by human warmth and the promise of a better future. If you were moved by this story, be sure to watch the next video that appears on your screen. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the next exciting stories. A big kiss and see you next time.